So I'm going to show you how to do the basic joins for this motif. It's joined, each motif is joined in two different ways. So I join at the corners with what I call a chain join, and then the 3 double crochet section is joined by what I call a drop loop join. So each motif you're joining it at the corners and also at the double crochet point. So we start off with one complete motif, and now I'm going to join another motif along this edge. So as mentioned before, I'm going to be joining in each corner, and then in each of these double crochet stitches. So this is just a little tip if you're new to this. It helps you to keep track of what you're doing. It can be quite useful just to put the stitch markers on at the next point where you're going to join. This is especially useful as the piece gets bigger and bigger. It helps you keep track of what's happening. So the join is done in the final round. So in round 6, that's when you make your join. So you need to, for this piece, for example, I've made up to round 5, and then I've started round 6, and because I'm only joining in 2 places, I've actually already made a piece that's got 2 corners already done of round 6. So I've done corner 1 round 6, corner 2 round 6 at the start of round 6 there, and then on this final corner is where I'm going to join. So my advice is, on the final round, do as much of the round as you can up until the point where you need to join. This becomes more important as you get more and more motifs, because the piece gets bigger and more unwieldy, and if you then start joining each piece as soon as you start crocheting the round, you've just got more work to do when it's joined and in an awkward position. So when the piece is like this on its own and not joined, it's much easier to work than it is once it's actually part of the bigger body. So you don't have to do that. I just find it personally a lot easier. So I've actually just got to do a couple of bits on this. I haven't finished off this side on this round. So if you're looking at this video and you like this pattern, this motif, you can find, I've got a video with the instructions. So this stage of the video assumes that you've already familiar with the motif and you've made one, and so I'm not going to give any instructions here about how to make the motif. This is purely for the join. So the corner joins are made in the chain 3 corner space, which I'm just coming up to now on this motif. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 sets of 2 half double crochets. Then if you remember, there's a chain 3 space in the corner. So I need to join right in the middle of that chain 3. So I'm going to make one chain 3, and then I'm going to make my chain join. So I'm not going to take the loop off the hook. I'm keeping this on the hook. I'm going into the corner where I'm going to join, so I'm going down from the top into that space, and then I'm grabbing the yarn, I'm pulling it through that chain space and through the loop on my hook. So I'm basically chaining around that chain 3 section. So if you don't get that, don't worry, we've got another corner to do, so I'll go over it again then. So now I've made 2 of my chains for the chain 3 corner. Now I'm going to make the 3rd chain of my chain 3 corner. Then I'm going to follow the pattern as before. Finishing off this little corner section. And then the next bit, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm coming to the double crochet, 3 double crochets on the side, which I'm also going to join, so make sure I'm putting them in the right spot. So you make your first double crochet and then you drop the loop off the hook. So I like to just extend that a little bit just so it doesn't accidentally come unravelled while I'm messing around trying to sort myself out. And I'm actually now going to take that out because that was just really to show you that gets in the way. You can get away with leaving the corner ones in as you crochet, but not so much the side ones. So now I'm going to show you how to do a drop loop join. So I've finished the stitch, I've taken the loop off the hook. Now I'm going to go into the corresponding double crochet on the other side, and I'm going from the top of the work down through the stitch. Then I'm going to grab this loop, I'm going to put it through the stitch. So I'm not working it, I'm not doing anything with it other than pulling that loop through that stitch. And the join comes as I make the next stitch. So now I'm going to do the second double crochet of that edged section. And you can see now just by doing that I've attached that onto there. So now I'm going to do another drop loop join. So take that, extend that a little bit. If you don't extend it, what can happen is as you're messing around with this, that will come unravelled, and then you just end up having to redo it all. So that's just a little safety measure just to reduce the frustration of losing the loop and unravelling. Again, so extend the loop, drop it off the hook, go into the next stitch from the top down, grab that loop, put it through that stitch, and then make your next double crochet. Extend the loop, drop it off the hook, go into the last double crochet from the adjoining piece, put the loop back on the hook and tighten it slightly, pull it through. So that's the other thing, you just got to remember to when you've extended the loop and as you then come to make your stitch, just make sure you tighten it. So you can see there that's made a nice join. You'll be able to see better when I've done the next section. 1, 2, 3, one more. Just do this little bit here and then I'll show you what it looks like. So there you can see we've got a really nice join. We haven't made any extra stitches, so with the corner join, because we've got chain 3, we're actually using a second chain to join. With the double crochet drop loop join, you're literally just attaching the stitch to the side without creating any extra stitch or any extra bulk. So that's actually a really nice way to join things. So now we're coming to our final corner. We're just going to finish off this side of the clover leaf. One, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of half double, and again we've got a chain 3 here normally, but we need to split that in half. So we got a chain 1, keep the loop on the hook, go into your chain 3 space of the piece you want to join it to, and then you make a chain, trapping that in. Then you're going to chain 1 to make your third chain of that corner, and then you're going to follow the pattern to the end. Finish with your slip stitch. the yarn. Fasten off. So there you can see I've made the first join, which is for the purpose of the instructions, this is what I would call join A. So you're just joining one motif onto another along one side of the motif, like that. So I'm now ready to join the third piece, third motif, which I'm going to join along this edge. So the join is more or less the same, the only difference being that you've got this point here where these two motifs are already meeting, and then you just do something slightly different, which I'll show you when we get to it. So if you're, you know, still not very confident, you can put your stitch markers in these points where you're going to join, and this point here where we're going to join where the two motifs meet, we're actually going to join in that chain join that we made. So if you have a look here, you can see this stitch here, that was your joining stitch. That is where you're going to place your next join. You're going to place it in that stitch. So you can mark that off if it helps you to feel a bit more confident about what you're doing. And then I'm not going to bother marking this one because you end up having to take the stitch marker out, and I know what I'm doing anyway. So third motif, I've done started round 6. I've done, because I'm only joining at 2 corners and 1 edge, I've already done 2 of the corners. I'm coming up to the 3rd corner now, and it's this corner that I'm going to join. So I'm going to make the rest of this corner section one, 2, 3, 1 more set there. And then remember, this would normally be a chain 3, and we're going to join in the middle of the chain 3, which would be the 2nd chain. So I've done chain 1. And this is where these stitch markers are quite handy, because you're having to move stuff around to get into the right position. So sometimes if you're unfamiliar with this, you can start to crochet, move things around, and suddenly forget where you are or at what point you were joining. So remember, I've done chain 1. I'm going into this corner, which I've already marked off to help me, and then I'm going to make a chain in this chain 3 space. Then I'm going to do my 3rd chain, and then I'm going to follow the pattern to finish off this corner section. Going to the double crochets now. So I make 1 double crochet, extend that loop, drop it off the hook, find the correct stitch I want to attach my work to, pull that loop tight again onto my hook, pull it through the stitch on the other side, make my next stitch, extend my loop a little, go into the next corresponding stitch, put the loop back on the hook, tighten it off, pull it through, same again for the 3rd one. Finish off this side section, onto the next corner, chain 1, first part of my chain 3, and then here I'm going to join into this spot where the 2 join, and as I said before, I'm leaving the yarn on the hook. I'm actually going to go from right to left into that this little loop made by the chain join, and then I'm going to chain, or really doing a slip stitch around that, chain 1, and finish off that corner. So then you've got this nice join here, and then all the last join, the fourth piece that goes there, is also going to join into that very same spot. Just finish off this round. 3, 4, 5, 6. Join with a slip stitch. Cut the yarn. And here you can see, I don't think the camera zooms out far enough, but you get the general idea. So we were there, and now we've added this bit on there. And as I said, that this join is basically the same as the one we just did before. It's just that you're joining onto a bit where there's already a join. So this last join, I've just called it C join, just for the sake of the instructions. So this join, you're joining two sides, and then you're also joining in a spot where there's already 3 motifs. So it's more or less the same principle, except this time I've only worked the first corner of the final round, and I'm ready to join the first corner, which is just the same way as the previous corners. Oops. With the chain join, so chain 1, put the hook into the corner, pull up a loop, so basically chained around the other chain, chain 1, and follow the pattern. And also on this next side that I'm going to join, there is a slip stitch ending, so I'll show you how to deal with that as well, because quite often people come across that point and they're not really sure where to join. So I'll show you the best way to join for it to look the neatest. I've got my side join here. I'm going to follow the pattern, so I'm going to make a single crochet, a slip, a drop. I'm going to do the drop loop join here, so I've just taken this loop off the hook and pulled it open. I'm going to go into the first corresponding stitch on this other motif. Remember, going from the top of the work, from the right side around to the wrong side, putting the loop back on the hook, pulling it through, make the next stitch, make that loop a bit longer, put my hook through the next stitch, put the loop back on, pull it through, make the next stitch. And now here we've got this slip knot join from the previous round. So what I found is if you go into the top of the stitch or the chain 3, top of the chain 3, it can leave a bit of a hole. So I actually find the best way to do it, it's not the easiest way, but it gives the neatest finish, is to actually try and get into that slip stitch join, the actual slip stitch, quite tight, but you can get in there, pull the yarn through, to be a little bit more careful there. I'll do that again because I think I just went out of shot, but I'm not sure because I'm trying to crochet and look at the screen of the camera. So I'll make the next stitch, elongate that loop, and then find the actual slip knot, the actual slip stitch. I've stretched it a bit now because I've already gone into it, but it is very tight, but it's worth the effort because that's what gives the neatest finish. And I pull that loop through, and if you give that tail a little pull, then continue the pattern. We can have a quick look when I just join this up a minute. Have a quick look at what that looks like. So, not too bad. You can't see that horrible slip knot join, the little knot slip stitch join. It's actually ended up coming round to the back of the work, which is where we want it. So that's how you deal with the end of the round, the slip stitch. You actually work into the actual slip stitch. So then you might, when you're finishing the rounds, you might consciously, when you finish off with your fasten off, when you're joining with a slip stitch and then fastening off, you might just want to consciously not pull that really tight at the end, just to save yourself a bit of trouble later on. So now we're coming up to this corner join where there's multiple motifs in one spot, and I'll show you how to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so chain 1, keeping the loop on the hook, and then we're going to take another look here, and what we're looking for is that the very first slip stitch that we joined with, and it should be quite easy to see which one it is, because can you see there's the first motif that can freely go through there. So that was our original slip stitch join, this ring. It does actually form like a little ring, so you just get your hook straight in the middle of there. It might not seem obvious to start with, but once you've done it a few times you'll spot that. So I've joined with a chain, and then I'm making my third chain, and then I'm continuing in the pattern. I'll just do a few stitches and then we'll have a take a little look at that. Actually, just finish off this little corner section. So you can see there that method of joining, where you always go into the very first chain join or slip stitch that you make, it just makes a really neat point of convergence there. So now we're going to just do the last 2 joins, which are pretty straightforward, and you've already seen how I do these. Something went wrong there. It's always the stitch straight after the chain that is the trickiest. So you can see what I mean by trying to make as much as the motif as possible before you try and do the joins, because the more and more motifs you have, the heavier this gets. And another thing that I would recommend, especially if you're a beginner, is this kind of work is best done on a table rather than on your lap, because on your lap this work is quite far away from you, and the weight of it hanging down can often make it quite tricky to keep control of the work. Whereas if you have it closer to you, i.e. on a table, or maybe you can put a big cushion on your lap or something, that can help. But if you're trying this for the first time, I would recommend doing it on a table rather than sitting on the sofa and having it on your lap. So we're going to do a drop loop join here, take the loop off, extend it, go through this first corresponding stitch from the right side of the fabric, run to the wrong side, pull it through, make the next stitch, repeat that process 2 more times. So that's that join done. Now we're coming up to the next corner section. Or the last join of this section. Okay, chain one, down into that space, pull up a loop where you're making a chain or a slip stitch, chain one, follow the pattern, and I got my last join here. That's the only other thing I'd say is try not to end up in a situation where you're have two ends of the rounds joining at the same point, because it makes a noticeable sort of lump. So here's all 4 motifs joined together. I can't fit it all in one shot because the way this camera is set up, but I'll include a photo of all 4 pieces together so you can see it better. I will be posting subsequent videos showing you the design process behind the top and how you could make your own top, which includes also how I did the neck shaping with partial motifs. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, and also check out my blog, which has got some other information, and will also have the written pattern and instructions for this motif on there as well. Thank you.